Yeah. Wait, should we record this? Because I saw this on my feed and I was going to leave a comment and I saw your comment on it. And then I
Yeah.
didn't even end up leaving my comment.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay.
Okay. When you start your business, no one ever prepares you for what's in store. So finding someone else who just gets it is sometimes the thing that can keep you pushing towards those big vision board business goals.
We're turning our Zoom coffee chats into a weekly, unfiltered podcast for online business owners. There were so many good ones, we always wanted to record them and repurpose them for content anyways. And that's on being a social media manager.
I'm Jessica Sheehy.
And I'm Madeline Daigan. And this is
hashtag
managed. I think it's perfect.
I like it. I like it.
Sam, welcome to Hashtag Manage Podcast, where we've been following you for a while now and absolutely love your content. But for our audience who might not be familiar with you and your brand, tell us a little bit more about you and your journey as a social media manager.
For one, thank you so much for having me. I don't binge many podcasts, but this podcast is one of my few. I'm obsessed. So happy to be here. Hi, my name is Sam. I am a social media manager. I've been running a social media management business for a little over 4 years now. And about 2 years ago, I built Sam Schmidt Social, which is a mentorship business for social media managers. I have a community, templates, programs, all those things. So just kind of get to mesh the best of both worlds and create, Sam Schmidt Social.
Love that. Okay, so to kick us off, we like to ask a few rapid fire questions. Just they're fun little icebreakers and again, help our audience get to know you more. So, number one, what is your favorite thing about being a marketer?
Honestly, things that are constantly changing. I know that stresses people out, but I like that because I get bored quickly. So I'm like, okay, that doesn't work anymore. Great. Let's learn something new.
Second question, celebrity you'd love to meet.
Ooh, Lady Gaga comes to my mind immediately. And I think it was just because I watched her Super Bowl performance. And I'm like, I just want her to sing to me.
Love her. Okay, can't live without blank.
Honestly, my emotional support water bottle, it's so real. Like, I have to.
So real. We can attest to that. In an alternative universe, what would your job be?
Honestly, I was a teacher before, and I think in an alternate universe, I would be a teacher, honestly.
And then your favorite brand.
My favorite brand is Oat House. It's a granola butter brand. Oh my gosh. If you don't know what it is, you have to check it out. It's the best.
Definitely need to check that out. Okay, let's dive into the not even nitty gritty. What am I saying? The meat of this episode. So, how has building a personal brand helped you grow your business or attract the right clients?
Yeah, so I actually didn't grow a personal brand for the first 2 years of my business. And I didn't even, honestly, I thought I was making social media management up. I just pitched to one of a restaurant I was working at, and I just kind of thought I was kind of making it up along the way, and then I decided, okay, I'm growing all these other people's Instagram. Why don't I do it for myself? And really building a personal brand allowed me to diversify my business 10,000 times over. I mean, things from not only being able to have social media management clients find me, but being able to offer digital products, and then eventually my coaching business. All of those things would have been not impossible, but way more difficult if I didn't decide to, and really decide to, even in the crickets, like, okay, we're gonna do this, and we're not gonna stop until it really works. So honestly, it's changed everything, financially, offers wise, pretty much everything.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like I said in the beginning, if you guys aren't following Sam, you absolutely have to because her branding and just her brand voice, her personal brand, so good. So good.
Thank you.
So, what would you say some common mistakes you see social media managers making when it comes to their own content?
This is actually one of my favorite questions, but I'm trying to think. I'm like, it's almost like when you with that question, I'm like, ooh, there's so many different directions. So I'll try and stay in one lane. But I think with social media managers specifically is I guess it's one of two things. The first thing first is, especially when you do start building up a client roster, having the creative energy to create your own content and really create your own good content, it really falls by the wayside. And I totally understand it, but I think the biggest mistake social media managers make is not treating themselves like a client and putting that same creative energy into it. The second thing, which I think is, so understandable, but is so common, is feeling like we have to do what other successful social media managers are doing. If we're not holding a disco ball with a blazer and a glass of champagne, we're doing it wrong, right? And that is not to knock anybody who's doing that. I have plenty of photos like that. But I think it's really being actually finding what you like to do. I mean, with my brand's like all around random food that's really not completely related all the time, but I just like, yeah, I don't really want to hold a disco ball anymore, and it's so freeing to really find your own thing.
Well, and I love it too because I feel like you've worked with a lot of restaurants. So,
Mhm.
and you haven't niched in the restaurant industry though, correct?
Right. I was in the beginning, but now it's all over the place.
That's okay. That's what I thought. Okay, I feel like that's a good segue to everything you just said is a good segue into our next question, which is what would you say to the social media manager who feels like everybody's already saying the same thing or maybe even like doing the same thing like you said holding the disco ball with the blazers because again Jessica and I too guilty as charged
Oh, yeah.
guilty as charged but
Oh, yeah.
you like again brands evolve
Mhm.
so yeah what would you say to that social media manager?
Yeah, and I just feel like I have to go back to, like, I feel whenever I say that, because I do feel like I say, like, you don't have to hold the disco ball if you don't want to, is like, I'm calling everybody out, and I always want to
No
say, I've held the disco ball, like, I've been
yes
there, you know? I think it's just so much more of, like, when we see the disco ball, it's like, oh, she's got it together. I gotta be like
yeah
that, like, you know? So I just wanted to point that out, too. But, I mean, when it comes to social media managers who feel like, you're posting all the same content, I mean, there's two ways you can look at it, and the way that I always look at it is all three of us, we could post the exact same reel prompt doing the exact same thing. It will bring in completely different people because you're, not to get completely woo woo on the whole thing, but I mean,
do
it's true
please
is,
do
your energy will completely attract somebody different than someone might look at my reel and be like, whoa, she looks a little crazy. Or like, and then see yours, Maddie or Jessica, and be like, oh, that's my girl. So I think getting out of your own head in that way is really helpful. It's like you'll bring in different people even if you're doing the exact same thing. But one thing that's also been really helpful for myself and other social media managers, and I'm curious if you have seen this too, is not just only talking about social media management and not just only talking about the thing that you offer. Like, I started randomly running last year, and more clients have come to me talking to me about running than about, all my social media tips. Like, doing something that's you within your own content that's outside of the thing you offer is the way to be different, in my opinion. And curious to get your guys' thoughts on that.
no
Yeah.
I completely agree and I going back to you I mean you had another life before being a social media manager you were a teacher and that's I think when I started following you or even seeing I think some of your content on TikTok like I feel like
Mhm.
I started seeing that and again like yes Jessica and I have been doing social media for a while now but I feel like my life at Adidas like where it's like those pieces have made like have gotten us here and connected us with like you said our clients our audience and recently like everybody knows I've become obsessed with cycle syncing so similar to your running where it's just like another thing to remind our audience and clients where it's like I'm human I have a life outside
Mhm.
of this like yes I love social media and another thing I want to applaud you for too and what I think even sets you apart and this is to other social media managers out there too, is humor. Like, your humor is not going to be the same as another social media manager, but like, I think we can all agree that humor like is so important, but everybody has a different type of humor. And like, my humor not be the same as yours. I have a feel like I've seen yours. Like, I feel like our humor is very similar, but yeah, that's my take.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say the humor element too, because I think for especially in my in my really okay, this is what a successful social media manager looks like, or this is what a successful businesswoman looks like online. There was just one moment where I was like, you know what, I don't, one, my blazers don't really look that cute on me, and like I just need to, like, I have to incorporate a little bit more fun into this, or else I'm not going to keep doing it. And even to what you said too is, some people might look at my stuff and be like, she thinks that's funny, and I'm over here cracking up at my reels. I'm like, that is so funny, that is hilarious. Like, I think as long as you think you're funny, like, somebody else is going to too. And
Mhm.
we're just in this era of, we get to post like silly funny videos and make money and bring people into our business through it. Like, who in what other world could we have been doing that? I think it's so funny when you're able to step back and think, like, this is what we do.
Mhm. Yeah. Sam, you mentioned two things that I wanted to like really highlight because I think that they're so important. Like the first thing is like to have a personal brand is to actually be personal. Like you didn't say that specifically, but you said to lean into like the things that make you you and like unique. And I love that you
Mhm.
mentioned your energy because I feel like we're like kind of woo over here. Like we
Mhm.
kind of own it a little bit. And I think
Mhm.
that is what really played into like our success. But leaning into like those personal aspects I think are so important, and kind of the other piece to that too is like getting out of your own way. So Sam,
Mhm.
do you have any advice, because the one thing that pops into my head is something that I see people post inside of our Facebook community all the time is I want to lean into my personal brand, or I want to like actually post on my own content as a social media marketer on Instagram or TikTok or whatever platform, but like I think a piece of it is they are in their own head, they can't get out of their own way, but they're so afraid to, like, share their face, like, to screen on video, whether it be, like, a reel or stories, and, yeah, do you have any advice on someone who's maybe hesitant because they don't want to, like, physically be in that personal brand, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially too when it comes to personal brands, I think there's this almost kind of, I think people almost think about building a personal brand and being your own content the same way you think about singing. Almost like, okay, if I don't have like a little bit of natural ability, then it's just maybe not for me. And that is so the opposite of content. Whereas, some people are always, talking on camera is always going to be a little bit, stickier and harder. But it's not like, the people that you see every day on camera just showed up one day and it was like, hey, here's my signature series. I'm going to talk for a minute. Do you have like how many hours of video content I have where I'm, going over my words? I'm like, oh, this looks ugly, this and that. Really, the difference is the people who let those drafts be on their phone and just keep going anyways. I think we're getting in your own way. It's so easy to, on take 3, 4, or 34, being like, okay, like this is just not worth it. And I think it's really the mindset shift of, no, this is going to be worth it, even if it's not perfect. Like, I do believe in liking your own content, because there's nothing worse than when you post something and you're like, I don't know about that. But doing take 35, 36, and posting something, it's really the mindset shift of, this is worth it to do that 36th take, because then eventually it's like building a muscle. That's the way I think about social media, is it's all muscle building, whether it's, building a muscle to post on your own stories or to show up. It's the same way you go into a gym and you're like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever, I love this place. Like, you'll eventually start to like it, but it's never going to be on the first time. So I don't know if that was like a roundabout way of talking about it, but
Yeah. No, that's perfect, and I feel like sometimes too I'm gonna maybe say, just from my experience and people I know, like more so creatives are always in their own way of like they can do it so freaking good for their clients, but they
Mhm.
can't seem to do it for themselves. Like I know like website designers who
Mhm.
build like massive websites in Squarespace and show it, and they're doing like really, really great things, and then their website, it's just a little lock screen, and it's like, "Coming soon." It's like, you've had this up for years for your business. Like, you're a website designer, like, showcase what you can do, because like, you do it for clients so well, and I think the same goes for, like, social media managers too. Like, they're so focused on, like, wanting to, like, do such great work for their clients, but I think bringing it back to, like, one of your very first, like, takeaways, if you will, from this episode is that you should treat your own personal brand and your own accounts like an extra, or, an added client versus, okay, I need to post on my Instagram, or let me plan my content for the next month. Like, treat it like a client and hold yourself to those deadlines. Like, hey, they're going to like get on me if I don't do this. And then
Mhm.
you might actually get something done. I think that was
It's
great.
funny that you say it in that way though too, because I've had social media, because I one thing throughout my content, even in my community, all those things is you have to post on your own page as a social media manager. It was like the biggest mistake that I made not doing it in the first 2 years. But one thing, I had a social media manager come to me and was like, I already have, clients. I don't need to post to get more clients. I have a full roster. And I was like, well, what happens when you lose that client? Are you going to just, word of mouth isn't always the most reliable thing in the world. Or, are you going to, do you have time to go and do outreach when you lose that client? Like, thinking about your personal brand in that way is almost this funnel for when, you will lose clients on a certain level. But I feel like for some people, the nurturing for new clients wasn't enough of an incentive, or treating yourself like a client wasn't enough of an incentive. So I came up with this, and it might be kind of a loose analogy, but it worked, where I was like, imagine going into a dentist's office and you see the dentist has no teeth. Like, having teeth is not a requirement of a dentist, but that's the same way that your clients or your potential clients are looking, you're telling them on the phone or on a discovery call they should pay thousands of dollars a month because social media is essential for your business, but then you don't use it for yours. It's similar to, yeah, you don't have to have teeth to be a dentist, but it would be really nice if you did. Like, just want to, and I feel like that's been really helpful for my clients that I consult with as social media managers to be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to post on my page then because I don't want to be a toothless dentist.
That's really good. Clip that, Harmony. Clip that.
Flip it.
That's great. Okay, so if someone's just starting to take their personal brand seriously, what results can they realistically expect in the first few months?
I don't know if it's like a hot take. I don't think so, but none. Honestly, I feel like when you first start, no, that was none. I think that setting that expectation is the best thing that you can do, is having no expectations in those first few months, because not saying that nothing is going to happen, but if you have that expectation that this is going to be crickets for the first 3 months or however many months, not only do you continue to keep going because you're not let down, or you haven't, you're not keep checking your Instagram and nothing's happening and it's this continuous, letdown cycle. But when something does pop up in those first few months, it is the best feeling. Instead of, oh, finally, it's, oh my gosh, really? Already? So that's the way I think of it. And that might be discouraging, but it's, again, it's almost like a laying foundations time in those first few months, and think of it like almost like a bonus when things do come your way, or you do have someone in your DMs in those first couple months. Is that means you're doing something really, really well, but it's not, that's the exception to the rule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm curious.
I'll start. I agree. I feel like oftentimes, like, sometimes we can give advice. I think marketers can give advice to clients of, like, if you have that conversation, right? You're getting a client into like a 3, 6, 9, 12-month contract, and they're like, okay, when can I see results? Or when can I get XYZ? Or when will I hit this benchmark? And you can't really put like a specific, you can put a benchmark of, timing wise and of metrics that we can measure, but you can't really pinpoint it down to the specific results that are going to just come from doing it, right? I think the same thing is, like, again, I don't know why I'm like obsessed with websites this episode, but you build a website, you put an e-commerce shop up or something. Let me go e-com over like basic website. You have an e-commerce shop, you're going to put it online. and you expect, okay, sales are coming. Everyone's like, it's launch day, it's launch day. Who knows other than yourself and probably the web developer who put together the shop that, yourshop.com is now live. No one's going to know unless you like put in the work that's going to take time and consistency to keep kind of going after it. So I think just expecting results to happen so quickly is just really unrealistic. But I think that's where so many not only social media managers but like personal brands and content creators, they just feel down. Like, one thing that I know Maddie and I have been saying lately, because I don't know what, it's like a common thing on our client calls lately where we're talking about certain content and being a content creator, kind of being your own influencer for your brand. And we're like,
Mhm.
it's cringe. It is cringe to start
Oh.
posting. And, the only people who are probably liking it are, the people on your, if you have any assistants or anyone on your team, you're probably sending it to your best friend, your partner, your mom, your
Mhm.
sister, like your inner circle is the ones interacting with it at first, and maybe just some random people who start to see, as you grow your following.
Mhm.
So it's really, cringe, if you will, to really start out. But once you put in the work, it can really like lead into something big. And I just want to say, Sam, I think a big piece of that is you mentioned funnel, and that like, like really sparked my marketing brain. I'm
Mhm.
like, yes, I'm so happy she said that as like as far as personal branding goes. It really is.
Mhm.
It's building a lot of people like at the top of your audience who will come hopefully down the line to become a client later on, or paid opportunities, UGC, whatever avenue you decide to take like your personal brand in.
It really is so true, and it's one of those things that I wish that you wouldn't have to experience on your own to really understand. But when people say you never know who is watching, even if they're not liking your stuff or commenting, like, everyone, on Threads and on Instagram always says that, but really until it happens to you, do you not be like, oh wait, what? I've had people who have come to me, have never liked a single post, have never done this. They've come into my communities, they've become my social media management clients, never, I didn't even know they existed, didn't even know they followed me, and they'll start talking about, oh yeah, when you posted back in 2021 on TikTok. I'm like, you were there then. Like, what? Like, it's really, it is a longer game, but it does pay off. It's just, like, so imagine, you're going to a builder and you're like, okay, you just signed on the house, but they still have to build the house. It's imagine going in and be like, okay, I need this house from scratch, and then being upset when it's not built right away. But it's the best. It's the best thing you can do for your business, truly.
Being a social media manager can feel like folding a fitted sheet while you're trying to explain at the family reunion what it is you actually do online, but you don't have to do it alone. The hashtag Managed Collective Mentorship is your weekly dose of business strategy, advice, and let's be honest, therapy. Grab your lunch, hop on our weekly lunch break coaching calls with myself and Maddie, and let's figure out how to thrive in this wild social media management world. Sign up now at hashtagmanaged.com/mentorship. Use code MANAGED for 20% off your mentorship. That's MANAGED. Join us now at hashtagmanaged.com/mentorship. We'll see you there at the next lunch break therapy sesh. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you made it this far, I think we've officially become internet besties. You can always call into the hashtag hotline and say hello, leave a review, or ask your burning questions.
Make sure you follow, rate, and review the podcast wherever you're listening from. Subscribe to the Social Club newsletter for our weekly email, and shoot us a DM over at hashtag Managed on Instagram, letting us know what your biggest takeaway was from this episode.